I see a trend in my violin lessons with students who have violins that are very, very difficult to tune, if not impossible to tune. And this doesn't have to do with strings or really even the weather. The problem is with the plethora of cheaply made violins that are all over the internet on mega websites and mega stores. In the violin teaching world, we call these instruments VSOs, or violin-shaped objects. They may look like violins, but that's where the similarities end. So a good beginner violin has what we call a proper setup, and that means a luthier, someone who works on violins, has carefully adjusted several things just specific to that violin to make it easy to play. So for instance, the bridge needs to be the correct height and shape. Otherwise, you may hit other strings no matter how you bow. The nut also needs to be adjusted properly so that it controls how much tension you need to press the string down. But the biggest problem I see with these VSOs are with the pegs. So if the peg has not been adjusted and tapered to fit that hole exactly, then you're never going to be able to tune that violin. Even your teacher won't be able to tune it. These VSOs often go straight from the factory to your door, and they don't get that proper setup from a luthier. And another thing I've noticed is that they come with a lot of extra goodies. Now, a beginner violin outfit will generally come with a case and a bow and sometimes some rosin. But these VSOs have a lot of times an extra set of strings, and those are generally poor quality as well. I've also seen the shoulder rests that they come with, and they're very uncomfortable and don't fit your shoulder very well. And I've noticed a lot of them come with extra bridges. So why would they send you an extra bridge? That must mean they know that the bridge that's on there is going to break or warp pretty soon after you buy it. Now, I've been playing violin for almost 20 years, and I've never had a bridge break on me or warp. Don't be fooled by the great reviews or the really wonderful descriptions that talk about how everything is made of real ebony and real wood. That doesn't mean that it's good quality wood. It also doesn't mean that the wood has been properly dried and aged. And it also doesn't mean that it's been properly set up to make it easy to play. Now, I see a lot of students that have these VSOs, and they're so difficult to tune that they never know where to put their fingers. So if you notice, the violin has no frets, so you need to know where to put your fingers using your ears. Now, you can buy those little tapes that go on to tell you where to put your fingers. But if the violin is constantly out of tune, then you're never going to know where to put your fingers, and you're never going to develop that muscle memory that you need. These VSOs often have really bad quality tones. And so no matter how well you play or how well you're doing everything, your tone is still going to sound scratchy and squeaky. And you might not think that's important for beginners, but it's really important for beginners. An advanced player will know that it's the violin making them sound bad, but a beginner won't know that. And so they may get very frustrated and want to give up and not even realize that it's the violin and not them. Now, these VSOs might seem like a good deal, but you can get a good quality beginner violin for around $200. So if you spend $100 on a VSO, you might think you're saving $100. But if you spend 3 to 4 violin lessons trying to get your violin tuned and not making any progress because the violin's always out of tune, then you're wasting at least $100 on lessons, and you're wasting valuable practice time, and you're wasting all that motivation. So how do you know if you're buying a VSO or if you're buying a real violin? Well, you want to avoid shopping at mega stores or mega websites that sell everything. Those violins are generally VSOs. You also want to avoid mega music stores that sell every type of instrument imaginable. They often sell VSOs as well. So you want to start local if you can and look for a local string shop or a local luthier. That way you can hold the violin, you can test it, you can make sure you have the right size. If that's not an option, I recommend a few online companies that specialize in stringed instruments. Shar Music is one, and Southwest Strings is another good company. What you want to ask about when you're searching for a violin is what's the company's trade-in policy. And what that means is that if you buy a violin from certain companies and then later on you want to upgrade to a better violin or perhaps get a bigger violin from that company, they will buy back that first violin and give you money off your second violin. And what that's basically saying is that they think that violin is worth buying back from you. Now, if you buy a VSO, unfortunately, you're probably not going to be able to resell it, so you'll lose all that money. One upgrade that I strongly recommend is geared pegs. Sometimes they're called planetary pegs or perfection pegs or peg heads, but they all work about the same way. They have gears in them, kind of like a guitar tuner, so they're very easy to tune, and they're not as susceptible to changes in the weather. So you can tune them easily up on your shoulder. There's no slipping or sticking, and they stay pretty much perfectly in tune from day to day, and if you do have to tune, it generally only takes a few seconds. So if buying your first violin seems really intimidating, it doesn't have to be. You can get in touch with a local string teacher, or you can message me. We're more than happy to help you find a great first violin. I'm Laura with LessonFace.com. Happy practicing.